for picks action. Bettor Sports Betting wants to know what picks you're playing tonight. Tell us in the live chat on YouTube, Twitter, and the Bettor Sports Network app. This is Bettor Sports Betting with Fantasy Alarm's Dan Servodidio.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome in here to the Bettor Sports Betting Show on Bettor Sports Network and Fantasy Alarm, YouTube, wherever you guys are watching. We appreciate it, and it's a Thursday night football show for us. I got James Grande with me as always on these Thursdays. What's up, man?
What's going on? Happy Thursday, Servo. I think this is the first Thursday we've had maybe all year where we've been.
It's actually a good game.
May enjoy the Thursday night football. Of course, like it's going to be like 31-3, and Herbie and what's his name? They're going to be sleeping throughout the whole game. So that's just how it's going to go, right? Like we're just aware that we finally get a good game, and it's going to be a terrible game at the end of the day. So no, I'm just kidding. It should be a fun one. Obviously, a very important game for the standings, but Bart Scott can't wait to get into it.
Yeah, it's a AFC North divisional game here. I mean, two teams that are, the Bengals fighting for a playoff spot. This is a crucial one for them, and the Ravens, obviously one of the top teams in the AFC. So it should be an awesome game to break down here. Get to some college football and NBA bets in just a sec. But if you got any of your own bets, by the way, for this game tonight, any other games tonight in the NBA, this weekend in college football, NFL for this weekend, definitely throw them in the chat here. We'll get to your questions and your picks as you guys throw them in, because we're open to everyone's opinions on this show, because we are clearly not always right. Unless I probably wouldn't be doing the show still if I was right every one of my picks. But all right, let's get into this game here. Ravens 3.5-point favorites, 46 is the over/under for this. I'll go first here. I like the Ravens in the first half in this game. I'll get to my full game bet in just a sec, but I do like the Ravens to start out strong this year. And I'm taking -165 on the money line at BetMGM. The spread's at 2.5, 3, wherever you're looking, but I'm fine to pay a little bit more because the Ravens have led at halftime in 9 of their 10 games this season. This is just what they do. They get out to strong starts. Lamar is comfortable early on. They have a set game plan for their first couple series, and they're usually scoring 1 or 2 touchdowns in the first half. It's just how they've rolled. And Lamar Jackson in his career actually found this stat: 65% cover rate against the spread in the first half throughout his whole career. This is just something he's done, and again, that's come to fruition this season. 8-2 against the spread in the first half, but again, they've led 9 of 10 games so far this year. The main thing here, I think, that the Ravens are going to try to exploit is the Bengals' poor rush defense. One of the bottom tier rush defenses in the league so far this year, and we know the Ravens have a strong run game. Keaton Mitchell coming on strong now with him and Gus Edwards, and obviously Lamar running it too. I just feel like they're going to have, Todd Monken's going to have a good game plan early on in this one to get the Ravens out early. The Ravens have a tendency to let teams hang around late, make a late second half comeback, but early on they kind of get it done. And the Bengals also have struggled to, cover some opposing tight ends this year. So I feel like, especially over the middle of the field. So I think Mark Andrews can have success there too early on before we see some, adjustments from the Bengals there. But give me the Ravens in the first half.
Well, you're just stealing my thunder here, Servo. Bringing up Mark Andrews. But I agree. And
add on.
We've seen the MO from this Ravens team even pre-Monken last year. This was what do we remember the Dolphins game last year where they blew that massive first half lead, and that was the Tua coming out party where he had 400 plus passing yards or whatever. But you brought up Mark Andrews, and that's where I'm going. Over 4.5 receptions, -145 on BetMGM. The Bengals have allowed the 7th most receptions to the tight end position, kind of on par with what you were saying. He over the last 3 appearances against the Bengals. Obviously, a different defense, but a better defense in the past. Like they lost their 2 starting safeties this year. Andrews has hit the over in 3 straight since 2019. He has hit the over against the Bengals in 6 of the 8 games he's faced them. So it's been obviously a long-standing history of Lamar Jackson to Mark Andrews for all the money, and that seems to come to fruition in big games when even they went out and actually addressed the wide receiver position probably for the first time in Lamar Jackson's tenure here. But Mark Andrews at the end of the day is still the top dog, and I think the over 4.5 receptions against a defense again who is without their safeties are not the safeties that they had last year. Jesse Bates having a lot of success away from this team. So give me the Andrews over 4.5 receptions just to pile on to your Ravens love. Well, maybe not Ravens love because you have I guess a Ravens first half love here.
Yeah, I like the Ravens in the first half, and we got Mulroyd in the chat here. Says he definitely likes Andrews as well for his receptions prop tonight. So he's agreement with you on that one. Mulroyd also thrown out. He personally liked Keaton Mitchell rushing yards. Got him earlier this week at 35.5. Just wait a second because I might be agreeing with you, Mulroyd, on that one. And then he likes Burrow 2+ passing touchdowns last 5 games this hit, including against the Ravens. Stay tuned because Grande might have a pick on. Oh wait, no, that's Lamar Jackson. Sorry. I mean, I do think the way to beat. So this just kind of goes into it because I have the Bengals on the full game plus the 3.5. I do think the Ravens can, be leading at halftime. But as I mentioned, they let teams come back in the second half for whatever reason. It happened last week. They lost to the Browns, had a big lead early, let the Browns hang around despite the Deshaun Watson playing hurt and all that to come back and lose outright in that game. But I do think Burrow is going to have success, maybe not too much early, but once they start making adjustments, once he starts hitting his stride with Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd, I think it's going to be, especially in the second half, a lot of Burrow just kind of carving up the weaker corners for Baltimore. The Ravens defense is very good, especially against the run, but their one weakness is probably cornerback, and they have Marlon Humphrey out, which I think is a big, notable loss. The way to beat them has been through corners. Some opposing receivers have had big games against them, maybe partly because, the Ravens have had a lead and got teams throwing more. But either way, I think Burrow is going to be really motivated to get this win because it's a must win for the Bengals to stay in the playoff race. If they lose this, it's not looking great for their chances rest of the season. And this is a big one. Week 2, we saw this matchup, Bengals-Ravens. It was a Joe Burrow who was hobbled by his calf injury, still kind of shaking off the rust. He wasn't great in that game. The Bengals still only lost by 3 in that game. I know it was at home, and this one's on the road, but I have the Bengals here. Some really telling stats, too, that I saw from Joe Burrow's career as an underdog, talking against the spread numbers here. When he's an underdog of 3 or more points, which is this situation, 15-2 against the spread in his career, 88% cover rate. And since his rookie season, so that, some of those spots where he was on a Bengals team that was underdogs as a rookie, since his rookie year, you take that out, he's 10-0 against the spread as an underdog of more than 3 points, and 8-2 straight up in those 10 games. So he is used to being counted out. He's used to playing from behind, playing as a dog. And I think this is a good spot for the Bengals to really come out strong. Maybe not early, as I mentioned, with the Ravens, having a lead, but I think they're going to pick it up late and make this interesting and possibly win outright. So yeah, give me the Bengals plus the 3.5. And to Mulroyd's point, I do think, it's going to be Burrow probably doing it through the air more often.
They need to win this game. Their schedule is very
this is a big one.
Ravens, Steelers, Jaguars, Colts, Vikings, Steelers, Chiefs, Browns. Every team's still in the playoff picture. that they're facing every team. Maybe I guess for the exception of the Colts are in the mix. They're a game and a half back. So
in the division too for the Colts.
yeah. So like every team that they face from here on out is potentially going to receive a playoff berth. So big game for Joe Cool, who is obviously got the clutch gene, if you believe in that as a thing. Well, the guy he's going to be throwing to a lot tonight here, Servo, is going to be Tyler Boyd. We know T. Higgins is officially ruled out. And last week we saw Tyler Boyd, I guess unsurprisingly, because we've seen this from Tyler Boyd a bunch of times, like Tyler Boyd had 3 straight 1,000-yard receiving seasons before Jamar Chase and T. Higgins coexisted on the same team as him. And Tyler Boyd is a very good receiver who is just overshadowed by great receivers, right? So give me Tyler Boyd over 4.5 receptions. He's done this twice. Each game that Higgins has missed this year, he's hit the over. And this is a really tough defense. I know you mentioned there is like some uncertainty with the Baltimore secondary, but they just don't allow a lot of touchdowns in general. But what they do allow is a lot of receptions. They've allowed the 7th most receptions to the receiving position this year, 132 receptions. Again, only said now 5 touchdowns, so you're more hard pressed to get into the end zone. But I mean, 132 receptions, the 7th most. Tyler Boyd, slot receiver, one of the toughest slot receiving matchups on the board. But Joe Burrow is going to look to Boyd early and often here. Over 4.5 receptions, even if he doesn't get into the end zone, feels like a lock for Tyler Boyd, especially if Cincinnati is going to continue to throw as much as they have. I know there's obviously we'll see what the game flow becomes. If the way that the Baltimore lead early could lead to another 37 pass attempts. I know Vegas has the Burrow pass attempts set at 37.5 tonight. So
that's high.
And well, I mean, he 40, 44, 32, 35, 46, 30. He has not thrown below 30, and 4 times this year he's topped 40. So it's obviously script dependent, but if he is going to throw 37.5 times, we're going to see Tyler Boyd with another 12 targets tonight. So give me the over 4.5 receptions for Tyler Boyd, just like Mark Andrews on the other side. I don't know if either of them get into the end zone tonight, but I like both of them to go over their reception props.
Yeah, I like that too. Just especially with T. Higgins out. I mean, it's just the target share is a lot more funneled to Chase and Boyd. And on that note, I got a Bengals receiving prop too. I'm going with Trenton Irwin, the other guy there who's now stepping up with Higgins out. Over 30, what is the number here? 34.5 receiving yards. It's been moving a little bit, but BetMGM 34.5 is the number there, minus 115. Last week, Higgins out. We saw Irwin in the wide receiver 3 role for the Bengals. He logged 81% of the snaps because the Bengals love to play with those 3 wideouts in those formations, and now Irwin's the 3rd guy. And he had 54 receiving yards, caught that touchdown. Went barely. I mean, he went over this number. It wasn't like a huge day, but he still went over this. And earlier this year, when Higgins was out, week 5, we saw Irwin play 76% of the snaps. He had 60 receiving yards in that game, 8 catches on 10 targets too in that game. So he's clearly, when Higgins is out, he moves right up into that 3rd spot. I mean, he is the guy that Burrow and the offense trusts as the 3rd guy behind Boyd and Chase. So I just think this line's a little too low, 34.5 for a guy that's, again, been over it twice already this year when Higgins has been out, which is what we have tonight. So yeah. And if the game script kind of goes the way I was saying, then it's going to be, especially for a guy like Irwin, who's kind of more of a shifty guy, could be looking for quicker completions. But I mean, he caught a long touchdown last week. So we'll see. He could go over this in 1 catch. We'll see. But give me the over here.
Yeah. I mean, he's been that guy since last year. He's burst onto the scene last year as the big play threat, and he could What's his what's his receiving yard? What's his reception long? That would be an interesting bet too.
Pulling that up right now. Receptions
On
2.5 is on BetMGM. It's juiced up to -165 to the over.
And 17.5 is his longest reception. Easy money for that. Easy money for the longest.
Yeah, the longest. Yeah, that's interesting. I would go over on that too. Yeah.
especially if you're betting like the 34 yards. Like I know he does have an 8 reception, 10 target game, but like since we've seen him burst onto the scene last year, like it just feels like he's just beating people down the field.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and in the 4 games he's had a catch, 3 of them have been 17 plus yards. So like he's just getting downfield, kind of like the Higgins role, like where Higgins is always driving the ball or getting driven the ball down the field. So it isn't a little interesting. I like Trent Irwin down the field, 34.5 yards.
For what it's worth, looking at BetMGM now. So last night when I was like kind of looking at some early, lines and odds, it was at 35.5 was this line. And then when we were prepping for the show today, it was at 34.5. It's now at 33.5 on BetMGM. So it looks like it's going down, which doesn't make me feel great about it, but I still think it's going to be an over. So if you can get it at a lower number on, at least on BetMGM, go for it. For whatever reason, that's the trend, but whatever.
Yeah, I mean, good odds still, good odds on the, it is trending the wrong direction. You can, get it at 33.5 too. Not a bad number.
I don't know.
Yourself.
It's kind of weird how it's going down, but whatever.
It is a little weird that it's going down, but I still like the over here. I like an under elsewhere. That's Lamar Jackson passing touchdowns, and I am a Lamar Jackson truther through and through. I think he is as good as any quarterback in the league at times, but there's obviously been a shift in the way that the Ravens have dominated on the offensive side of the football. I guess not a shift, but it's been all the running game. And Gus Edwards has a jillion touchdowns over the last few weeks. And when you look at the Bengals defense, and this is two defenses that just don't allow passing touchdowns. They've allowed 17 combined touchdowns passing this year. When you go through Cincinnati's defense, they have allowed, and maybe this isn't the best part of the argument, they've allowed one quarterback this year to throw for more than one touchdown. It is, in fact, Lamar Jackson. So there's the caveat that the only quarterback to throw for multiple touchdowns against him this year was Lamar Jackson, but that was way back in week 2. So since then, Matthew Stafford, Geno Smith, Brock Purdy, Josh Allen, CJ Stroud. One or fewer touchdowns against all those quarterbacks. Multiple of those quarterbacks you would probably rank in the top 10. CJ Stroud, as of this week, is getting love and MVP talk, but he still failed to do it. So give me the under 1.5 touchdowns for Lamar Jackson. Not that I think he isn't Superman, and not that I think that he can't do this, because I think he's, again, as good as advertised. But Cincinnati's defense is just not allowing passing touchdowns. Yeah. So I'm going to take the under here.
I like this a lot because I do think the Ravens are going to be scoring on the ground more often than not tonight. So this is maybe easy to say, take the over on 1.5. It seems low, but I think this is the right call. By the way, I was just pulling up, Adam Schefter to see if I missed any news on Trenton Irwin or something. And it looks like the Bengals have activated Charlie Jones, wide receiver, off injured reserve. And they've elevated wide receiver Shedrick Jackson from the practice squad to the active roster tonight. So I guess that's 2 extra receivers. Maybe there's a chance Charlie Jones is going to get snaps more as the third guy. But I don't know why the Bengals would go away from Irwin, who has experience in that wide receiver 3 role, who scored a touchdown last week from Joe Burrow. So we'll see. Of course, that's probably why the line's going down. And if you want to fade that pick, then I totally get it now. But whatever.
I mean, it is interesting. What is Charlie Jones' draft capital here? Is he 4th round pick this year?
Yeah, he
out of
Purdue. Yeah,
huh?
he was a really good player at Purdue. Actually, he had transferred from Iowa, where they don't pass at all. But we went to Purdue last year. They went to Purdue, and he exploded last year and became a 4th round pick. So yeah, I mean, he does have talent and also like a big play, downfield threat. So maybe he's better than Irwin in that role. I totally get that, but
right,
we gotta see it over him tonight. But we'll be monitoring that for sure. I hope my bet still cashes either way.
I mean, I still like he's being activated from IR. Very often do you see, or very it's not often you see a receiver like get activated and they're like, yep, get out there. He's never even played. So it's not like he's barely played in the NFL. Like, what are they going to just put him in for all these snaps? I don't see it. I still think Irwin's
he has played this year, right?
He has, but it's like I just closed it. Gosh dang it, Servo. I think he had like 1 catch. Charlie Jones has two targets, 1 catch for 6 yards.
Okay.
He's played 3 games. So yes, he did miss time. He did, I guess, technically in that Rams game, he saw the field and Trent Irwin did not. So maybe that's something of note for your Trent Irwin prop here. Because Chase, Boyd, Higgins all saw time. Charlie Jones was the only other receiver to catch a pass in that game.
Okay. So that was before he got hurt. So I'm looking at I'm looking at snap counts, and after that game, he hasn't played since. So I guess he's been on IR since then. I love this. The live just kind of research into what is going on with the Bengals wide receivers.
Yep. The live update from Shefty telling us why is this yards just moved.
Yeah, why is this line going
2
down?
yards? Yeah.
You know what? What is let's look this one up. How about this? Live on the show. Anytime touchdown scorers. Can I get a Charlie Jones touchdown? I don't see him on BetMGM here.
He doesn't even exist.
He does.
You can get Patrick Ricard, but you can't get Charlie Jones.
Yeah, Patrick Ricard. You can get Charlie Kohler at plus 1,500. Wow. Or anytime is plus 3,300.
Jesus. Oh my god.
All right. Anyway, back to Moroyd's comment about liking Keaton Mitchell's rushing yards over. You got it at 35.5. I like that. I got it at 36.5 here on Caesars today, and I'm taking the over as well because, listen, I think there might be a changing of guard in this Baltimore backfield now because last week we saw. Or 2 weeks ago, we saw Keaton Mitchell explode for those 138 rushing yards on just 9 carries, had multiple long gains. This guy, anytime he touches the ball, he's an explosive play. I mean, this is we've seen this now from multiple guys across the NFL, most notably Devon Achane with the Dolphins. And anytime he touched the ball early in the year, he was an explosive run, a long gain waiting to happen. And we've seen that from Mitchell. And I think the Ravens would be doing themselves a disservice if they didn't give this guy more carries. And Harbaugh has said that this week, actually. He suggested we need to get Mitchell more work. And last week they went away from that, only gave him 3 carries, still had 34 yards on those 3 carries, including a breakaway touchdown, and had 32 receiving yards on 2 catches. So when he's touching the ball, this guy is averaging like 10 plus yards per touch. And Harbaugh said that they're going to get, try to get, especially on this short week, maybe give Edwards a little break, give Mitchell some more work. Last week we saw Edwards only have 24 rushing yards on 11 carries. Like, did not look great. But when Mitchell came into the game, he breaks off a long run. So I just need to see him get more work, and I feel great about this over because, as I mentioned earlier, the Bengals allowing the third most rushing yards per game in the NFL, second most yards per carry too this season. So I think that if Mitchell gets at least 5 carries, which I think he should, he should get at least 5 carries, but hopefully he's getting like 10 and he's going over this.
It's very interesting when you see a guy score a 39-yard touchdown, finish with 34
I
yards.
know, right?
That is
he had a couple, he had a
an
negative carry
stat.
or two, yeah.
But to your point, like, they did go away from him, but maybe, there's light at the end of the tunnel. In that Seattle game where he had the 9 for 138, he played 18% of the snaps. For the game against Cleveland, where he only had 3 for 34, he played 24% of the snaps, and that's not including special team snaps. His special team snaps actually cut in half from the Seattle game to the Cleveland game, kind of suggesting, okay, this dude, we need to get off special teams because he needs to avoid injury there and play on our offense. So 2 trends you definitely like to see, where offensive snap share going up, special team snap share going down. And if that trend continues, even if it's like, you don't have like there's no way to quantify this, but even if it were like another 6% increase, right? Just instead of, and he plays 30% of the offensive snaps, you have to assume the guy with this big play potential is going to see more carries than just 3. So, I like the Keaton Mitchell rushing yards for sure.
I do, especially with the short week, Thursday Night Football. Like the fact that he didn't get a lot of, carries, touches, snaps last week. Like, this guy's rested to come in and break off a couple long gains, I think. So, I'm hoping. All right, so that's some Thursday Night Football. Good luck to all of your own bets and picks tonight. Should be a fun game to watch. And by the way, Thursday Night Football on the BettorCast app is being gamified with the BenderCast tonight. I saw. So check out the BenderCast. We got Howard Bender, talking pregame with a little preview, watching live with you. You can answer these in-game questions that we got going, win some tickets, win prizes. Scan that QR code right now on the screen, or go to the Apple app, Google Play stores, wherever you get your apps. Download the free BettorCast app. It's free to play. No purchase or subscription necessary. You just have to be at least 18 years old. And, just you answer questions right. You get them right. You watch the game and have fun, and you can win some real cool prizes. So, BettorCast tonight. All right, let's dive into college football here. I got some picks. Week 12 in college football, and it's been a fun season. We only got 2 more weeks for the regular season in college football before we get into conference championships. We get into the bowl season, but last 2 weeks of the regular season. So I'm savoring this, and we got some interesting matchups this Saturday. First one, this is part of the Servo 7 college football totals competition that we got going on all season long over on BettorEdge. So if you haven't already, go download, go over to BettorEdge.com/better and use promo code BETTOR, BETTOR, to get $20 when you sign up and verify. No deposit required for this. It's an awesome competition where you have about 20 games sample size and you pick 7 and you go over or under totals. It's easy as that. You don't have to pick winners, spreads, don't have to worry about any of that. So college football totals competition, Servo 7. My pick this week, I am going with the over in USC UCLA. 65.5 is the total there on BettorEdge. I like the over in this because we have seen 5 straight UCLA USC games, this rivalry. 5 straight have hit the over on this with an average of 89 points scored.
What?
89 points scored in the past 5.
College football's crazy.
At an average, and each of the last 4 meetings have had 80 plus points scored. This is a game that's just
crazy.
It's been a shootout every year. And I see it happening again because on one side, USC, we have Caleb Williams, this high-powered Trojans offense that can light it up on a weekly basis and have been. They've even when they're losing, they're putting up like 40-plus points at times. So and Caleb Williams, you got to give him a lot of credit because USC's season's kind of, over in a sense that they're not going to make the college football playoff. They're just going to be in, maybe they make a really good bowl game, but they're not going to win the Pac-12 either. But Caleb Williams, even though he's going to be, probably the number one pick, he's playing hard. He's still playing out there and playing for his team. And I think he's going to have some pride here in the rivalry game to show up and put some points up on the board. And sorry about that. And on the other side, so the USC defense is also terrible. They've been bad all season long, and they're not shutting down anybody. They fired their defensive coordinator. It hasn't really helped. This defense is still terrible. UCLA, so they get their quarterback, Ethan Garbers. He's expected to start this week. He was out last week with a concussion. They've been, revolving door at the quarterback position all year for UCLA. But I think getting him back and starting is going to shore things up. This offense looked better with him under center in his 2 full games early this year when he started. So I think that helps. The other huge factor in this, UCLA, if you're a college football fan, you probably have heard the reports and rumors. They're reportedly going to fire Chip Kelly after this game if they lose. That is the report. If they lose, they're going to fire him after this game. But if they win, they could wait until the end of the regular season to fire him. I think this is
Chip's done. So Chip's
pretty
done.
much, yeah. It's in the cards that he's going to be fired. But either way, I feel like he's going to want to go out firing in this last game against USC. Who knows what he does next coaching wise, but I feel like this is going to be. He's going to dial up some trick plays. He's going to have his team running that up-tempo offense, again, against a bad Trojans defense. So give me the over in this game. I'm expecting a bunch of points here.
Poor Chip, guy. As an Eagles guy, I'm sure you don't care that much, but
he came in the NFL and he changed the NFL. He brought the RPO. He brought the up-tempo offense. Teams have, the quick passes, teams have really changed their offenses from even the modern NFL before that.
They've just done it better than Chip has.
Yeah, they're having more success with it. Yeah.
Yeah. Chip handed the keys to the car, but he just couldn't drive it. Everyone else can. Let's move on to another pick. We got Iowa State versus Texas here, Servo. What do we got in this game?
So I'm rolling with Iowa State on the points here as the underdog. Ooh. Plus 7.5. Sneaky little underdogs here. Texas has just been looking very vulnerable lately. They survived with a 3-point wins in their last 2 games over TCU and Kansas State, but they've just kind of let teams hang around. I feel like it's going to catch them at some point. Maybe they don't lose this game, but I think they're going to let Iowa State hang around too. They also had just a 7-point win on the road at Houston, last month in October. It's just a situation where I think Texas is kind of just biding their time, sneaking out with wins, but waiting for the Big 12 title game and hoping for a loss or two from one of these other top teams so that they can get into the college football playoff. But it's just a tough spot here because Iowa State has been very good as a home underdog throughout Matt Campbell, their head coach's career at Iowa State. So, and Iowa State, 4 of the last 5 home games against Texas, they've won 4 of the last 5. They've won them outright. So this is a spot where they have Texas's number when they're at home, and now they're a home dog. So I like getting the 7.5 here because they can still lose by a touchdown, but I can cash this. Texas, by the way, they lost their top running back, Jonathan Brooks, for the season. He's now out. I feel like that's just a big loss that might take. They had some time last game to get used to their freshman CJ Baxter in the backfield, but I feel like it's going to take another game to truly, get get things rolling back on offense. Texas also, by the way, is 3-6 against the spread as favorites this year, and they failed to cover their last 2 road games as well. So, yeah, give me Iowa State in this spot.
Isn't there like a next year quarterback controversy brewing this year for Texas? Isn't there like an Arch?
Yeah, good call.
Isn't there?
Because
So Arch, right?
Yeah.
We get Arch next year.
Well, so Quinn Ewers is reportedly going to come back for another season. He was probably going to be one of the top quarterbacks drafted this in the NFL draft, but there was a report that he could be coming back, and yeah, they have Arch Manning waiting in the wings. He's a freshman this year, hasn't played yet, but I mean, you would assume he would be the starter next year. And if Ewers is back and they commit to him, probably gonna see Arch Manning hit the transfer portal and he'd probably start for like Alabama or something next year.
I mean, isn't Arch Manning like the number one, like most highly coveted high school quarterback of like recent memory?
Pretty much, yeah. He does obviously have the talent, have like kind of the raw skills, but he's got the Manning last name, so that is, and he's literally been groomed like from a young age, being taught by Peyton and Eli, basically. So it's like, I mean, and you just have that name. Like he's gonna be, when he starts and he's like making highlights every week, he's gonna be a huge name in college. So yeah.
Speaking of quarterback issues, I hear Miami, Florida has one, but they take on the ranked Louisville Cardinal here, and it looks like you don't care much about that quarterback issue for the U. Servo.
They do, you're on it, James, because they do have a quarterback situation here. We had they benched Tyler Van Dyke, their starting quarterback. He threw a bunch of picks like 4 games in a row, and they benched him. But he's back as the starter because the guy that they benched him for got hurt last week. Serious injury, like broke his arm, and Van Dyke is back. But I actually feel like this could be good for him to play with more motivation, because at the beginning of the year, he was like one of those guys that's like, all right, he's gonna be a sleeper NFL draft prospect. He could, dark horse final Heisman winner if Miami's that good. But it's been ups and downs, a lot of downs for him this year, but he's still got a ton of talent. And Miami as a team has, just like when you look at their rosters, they have more talent than Louisville. And Louisville, I feel like when you were on the show previously, I picked against them a couple times because I have been waiting for them to lose another game. I did pick when they played Pitt, I backed Pitt, and Pitt upset them. And they could have like 2 or 3 more losses. And I think it's very telling that the number 10 team in the country, 9-1 Louisville, is only 1-point favorites here against the Miami team that's been not great this season. I think this is very telling. So I'm grabbing Miami. Louisville, by the way, this year on the road, they've struggled. Like I mentioned, they lost to Pitt outright. They only beat NC State by 3. They're 0-4 against the spread when they've been on the road or on a neutral field this year. And this is their first road game in about 4 games because they've been at home and benefiting from that. But going back on the road, and I know Miami's home stadium is not like, their fans are not too involved and too motivated to actually be there. And, it's not like one of those huge home crowd, home field advantages because they play in like the Dolphins Stadium, and when the Miami's not good, it's not a really good environment. But still, I think just going on the road for Louisville here is a tough spot. Miami this year, by the way, 3-1 against the spread as underdogs, including playing Florida State tough last week. They beat Clemson outright as underdogs. They've gotten up for these top matchups, against top teams, and they got number 10 Louisville coming in. I think Miami probably looks at this like, at the beginning of the season, honestly, Miami was projected to be a better team than Louisville, better record, and they're probably looking at this like we are the better team. So this might be one of those wrong team favored type situations. I think interesting.
Miami also a kneel down away. Mario Cristobal decided to
I know.
from being 7-3, right? So they could have been
exactly.
a little better.
Yeah. That was a bad one.
Someone I don't know anything about, Louisiana Monroe. They are taking on Ole Miss. Speaking of the Mannings, where one of them attended college, Eli, giant great. What do we got in Ole Miss, Louisiana Monroe here?
Yeah, this is kind of a random one, but it's basically the thought here is that Ole Miss, they're coming off a loss to Georgia last week. It was a big game for them. Top 10 matchup. They lost. They got beat pretty handily too. And I just think it's going to be a letdown after that. And then a major look ahead to this next week. They have their rivalry game, last game of the regular season, Mississippi State. It's on Thursday. It's on Thanksgiving Day. This is a short week for them. And this game against Louisiana Monroe, you can see the spread there. 37.5 is the spread.
Solid.
They're gonna dominate Louisiana Monroe. There's no reason for them to lose this, obviously. But this is basically like a bye week for them. Like their starters should not play. They probably won't play because their backups are a lot more talented than anything on Louisiana Monroe. So this is essentially like a bye week. Their quarterback Jackson Dart, he got banged up last week, by the way, and I doubt he plays this week because they don't need him to. And again, the short week, Thursday game coming up against your rival Mississippi State, who just fired their head coach, and it would look terrible if Ole Miss finished this season with how good they've been, losing to Mississippi State, who just fired their coach. So I just think that they're going to want to get out of this game with an easy win. They're going to run the ball a bunch. They're not going to play a lot of their starters on both sides of the ball. But even though, like, maybe you think, Louisiana Monroe, they honestly could cover this spread, but this is a bad team. They're 2-8 this year. And they're playing in obviously a much lower tier in conference. This is not a good team. So I just think this is going to be 62.5 is the total here. I just see this being probably just like a 40-0 win. I mean, it's not. I don't see how there's more than 60 points scored in this game. So that's the vibe there.
Louisiana Monroe to cover, Servo. I'm betting that.
You might, I would. Why
not? Final pick of the day: Oregon, Arizona State, Pac-12 matchup. What do we got?
Yeah, so I gave out some underdogs. I'm going with a favorite here, and it's Oregon, who's been cashing for me all year long, and I can't stop now because they're 8-2 against the spread this year. Obviously on the screen, 9-1. We know they lost to Washington. They covered in that game as underdogs, but 8-2 against the spread. Their two non-covers were backdoor scores, late fourth quarter touchdowns. Last week it happened against USC, where again Caleb Williams is just playing to the final whistle. They scored 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter to even cover that spread. But Oregon was winning this game handily. And then Washington State early this year had a late, last minute fourth quarter touchdown to cover that spread. But it was a game Oregon was dominating and handling. Other than that, we could be looking at a perfect against the spread team this year in Oregon. And here they are, 23.5 point favorites on the road at Arizona State. Might seem like a little tricky spot with Oregon State coming up next week for Oregon. But Arizona State they're not a good team. You can see on the screen 3-7, but one of those wins just came last week where they upset UCLA, who was talking about earlier, was out their starting quarterback. Their offense looked terrible, and UCLA, with Chip Kelly being fired, maybe they kind of quit on them in that game. And I feel like Arizona State just a letdown after getting one of their 3 wins this year. The week before, Arizona State got blown out by Utah, 55-3. I just think Oregon, even though they're on the road, they're going to take care of business and dominate this game. They're 4-0 against the spread on the road this year, and they're also 5-0 against the spread as 3 touchdown favorites or more, which is what we have here. So this is just this is just going to be an Oregon domination, in my opinion. So yeah, give me the Ducks.
Quack, quack.
There you go. So there's some college football bets. I got an article up on Fantasy Alarm right now. Got two more games that I broke down. Washington, Oregon State, one of those. That's a huge game this weekend. Got a pick for that game. So definitely check that out article on Fantasy Alarm with the All-Pro subscription. You can get the All-Pro subscription. You can get James's NBA DFS plays for tonight, for tonight's slate. And you got a couple NBA bets too here. So what do you got? What do you got rolling for? It's a small slate NBA, but I know you still got some picks.
Yeah, just two games tonight. Just two picks tonight. My first pick is I have been number one Oklahoma City Thunder backer. I think every NBA show that we did previewing the season, I gave an OKC bet. I gave
remember
over
that,
their
yeah.
wins. I gave SGA as the sleeper MVP pick. And dating back to last year, Oklahoma City had just last season, they were fourth in the NBA. And I actually just put this tweet out on my Twitter account basically right before we went on the show. They were 45-34-3 against the spread last year. That was the fourth best record in the league, and they were not a winning. They didn't even make the play-in. They didn't even make the play-in last year. This year against the spread, they are 8-3. This is also the fourth best in the NBA. Tonight they travel to Golden State to take on the Warriors, a place that has, been obviously a great place to play for the Warriors in years past. No Steph Curry for the Warriors tonight. Obviously, no Draymond Green. Rear naked choke got him suspended for 5 games, right? So they're without, arguably two of their best players. They have Servo outside of Stephen Curry this year. They have 3. There's been 3. They've played 11 games. 3 times a player not named Steph Curry has scored more than 20 points. Dario Saric has done it twice. Brennan Podzinski, their first-round pick, did it once. Nobody else has scored 20. So we're talking about a team that is playing a deep rotation, that has not have been as reliable in the past, and it's a 2.5-point spread. The Warriors at home this year, 0-4-1 against the spread. That is dead last in the NBA against the team covering the spread almost better than anyone in the league. We're talking about a fully all systems go team in OKC with everyone back. They just got Kendrick Williams, one of their main rotation pieces, off the bench back. They have no injuries. Golden State down 2 of their best players and haven't beaten the spread yet at home. Give me OKC -2.5 as my top play of the night. And in the other game, I didn't intentionally mean to just pick one from each game, but I like Dorian Finney-Smith under 8.5 points. And the reason I'm taking the under here is, one, he's playing Miami. This game is not the best when you talk about game environments at all. They're both middle of the road when it comes to pace. But Dorian Finney-Smith, who was playing big minutes to start the year, has seen a dip in playing time since Cam Johnson, a guy that they acquired from the Suns in the trade last year, has come back. Cam Johnson's minutes the last 3 games, 25, 35, 29. So we've seen 25 minutes plus from Cam Johnson. In those games, Dorian Finney-Smith, where the game that Cam Johnson played 25, he played 27. Cam Johnson played 35 minutes the next game. Dorian Finney-Smith played 20. He only played 24 in Orlando, and Cam Johnson played 29. There is a direct positional correlation here, as well as Nick Claxton returning from injury for Brooklyn. They were running a smaller center rotation with Dorian Finney-Smith at times. Dorian Finney-Smith now losing minutes there. So there's been multiple spots that he plays, and he's a good rotational piece, but he was playing 30-plus minutes, and now that is obviously disintegrated. You look at the Dorian Finney-Smith shot attempts over that span, 6, 7, 5. He has hit the over in the 8.5 points once. That was in the Boston game when he did play 27 minutes. The last 2 games in which he's played 20 and 24, 6 and 5 actual points for Dorian Finney-Smith. He is a decent shooter at times. He is shooting 44% from 3. That has gone down as the playing time has gone down as well. So give me under 8.5 points against a tough Miami defense. Their Miami defense ranks 8th in the league in terms of defensive rating. And in just a slow pace environment, Brooklyn has the lowest team total on the board tonight, and Dorian Finney-Smith already losing playing time. So Oklahoma City -2.5 in Golden State. Dorian Finney-Smith under 8.5 points. Servo, I've only had 3 cups of coffee. I needed the 4th. I needed the 4th today.
It's a tricky name, Dorian Finney-Smith.
Especially when you say it 20 times in one segment. I could have just kept going DFS, but
I was gonna say
yeah.
Dorian, just call him Dorian.
Yeah, there's many roads I could have gone.
I love the Thunder play. I mean, listen, you laid it out, but I mean, Draymond, like, dude, this guy. By the way, I feel like 5 games is light.
It is.
The dude like assaulted Rudy Gobert on the court.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. And obviously, like, he's not first offense. Now, I will say, like, playing a little word association. When you hear Rudy Gobert word association, you think COVID, right? Like, he shut down the world pretty much.
Oh, yeah.
It was
coughed on everybody's mics. Yeah.
Yeah, it was Rudy Gobert's fault. So, like, I understand it, and like, he is universally, I think, not liked. But like, regardless, you're the NBA. You set a precedent. You can't just give Draymond 5 games for literally a rear naked choke that he was being screamed at to let go by his head coach and everyone else, and he just choked harder. Like, he just squeaked harder.
Yeah, he didn't let go.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this should be a Thunder win. So love that. All right, so go check out James's NBA DFS plays and picks over on Fantasy Alarm if you haven't already. We've got a ton of content over on Fantasy Alarm too for tonight's NHL, NBA, college football this weekend, college basketball this weekend as well. So jump on all of it. Coming up after us, we have the Thursday game day preview. John and Pemba and Andrew Cooper at 7 p.m. Eastern on the Fantasy Alarm YouTube, on Bettor Sports Network YouTube, 7 p.m. Eastern, high stakes fantasy football show with Eric Balkman. And then we got the Bettor Cast at 8:15 for Thursday Night Football, Bengals-Ravens, the Bender Cast for tonight's Thursday Night Football. So tune in there, get the Bettor Cast app if you haven't already. And we'll see you guys tomorrow. Me and Howard giving out some NFL bets and props. And we'll catch you guys then. But good luck and take care.
Bettor Sports Betting on the Bettor Sports